What's going on, everyone? Well, the Phoenix Suns are officially eliminated from the playoffs, and it kind of went exactly how I thought it would. I was preaching from the moment that they made this trade that Phoenix was not a very good team and that they weren't going to go anywhere, and that I thought that they would get ran through, and they did by Denver, and they very likely would have gotten ran through by the Clippers if the Clippers were healthy, but they weren't. And so Phoenix ended up advancing to that round with their struggles and then ran into the Denver Nuggets. And Denver just ran through them in 6 games and beat them by 25 on their home court. They were up by like almost 40, I think, at one point. It was really bad. Look, this is a team that was two players. It was Kevin Durant and it was Devin Booker. And that's what I've talked about. They don't have the defense, they don't have the depth. They don't have the general talent outside of these two. It took Kevin Durant and Devin Booker putting up 80 points per game for them to even just be competitive, not even necessarily win the game. And it was like, eventually they're not going to have that game and they're going to get blown out and ran through. And that's what happened against the Denver Nuggets. You know, Kevin Durant had 23 points on 8 of 19 shooting, and Devin Booker had 12 points on 4 of 13 shooting. And they got ran through. They got blown out. Devin Booker didn't even meet with the media. Kevin Durant, he did. He was kind of short in a lot of his answers, just kind of like, yeah, it sucked. But again, this was a trade that was made for next season. And I said that the moment this trade happened. They lost all of their wing depth, all of their defense, everything, all of their depth in this Kevin Durant trade. And I don't knock them for going and getting Kevin Durant because, look, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker offensively are more than enough to win you some games and be very good. Now, Phoenix just needs to put a real team around them, and I expect them to do that this offseason. And next year, I think that they will be, depending on the moves that they make, and we'll address that as they come. But based on the moves that they make, I really think that they're going to be a formidable opponent, and they very well could be a team that when everyone says, oh, I think Phoenix is coming out the West, I might actually agree with them. I got so many people, I can't even count that high, how many people were saying that Phoenix is going to run through everybody, Kevin Durant, da-da-da-da-da, and I just kept preaching, look, Kevin Durant is a great player, but he's not enough to win an NBA championship by yourself. He's not, the Phoenix Suns are not coming out the West. It's not happening. They aren't a good enough team. And people try to say, oh, well, they're undefeated, you know, with Kevin Durant and this roster in the regular season when they play. And it's like, yeah, they played a bunch of like G League guys and a bunch of tanking teams that were purposely losing. Like, you got to look at the teams and the talent that they were playing against. And then you saw all the issues and all the struggles in the Clipper series. And then they just lucked out by playing a team that didn't have any other stars. Ended up going against Denver, and Denver ran through them. And give Phoenix credit. I mean, Phoenix put up a fight. They did a great job winning those 2 games when it looked like they could have just rolled over and laid down. Devin Booker had like a crazy historic run, so credit him. They just didn't have enough, and they need to go get some defense, some depth, and some other kind of scoring talent. They need a scorer off the bench for sure, and they need some like defensive help. So first off, them losing Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, I'm sure many people are going to look at that and attribute that to being the deciding factor. It's not. The Phoenix Suns were actually better without Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. And I even said when Chris Paul went down that might have actually been a blessing in disguise for the Phoenix Suns because the ball would be in Devin Booker and Kevin Durant's hand more. And those two guys are better operating in that pick and roll and decision making than Chris Paul has been this year, especially Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was like one of the top 2 or 3 guys, I believe, in the league. He might have even been number 1 in that pick and roll action in the entire league. And so Chris Paul is kind of unnecessary. Right? Like, they don't need a point guard, right? They don't need somebody. They need somebody that can just bring the ball up and give the ball to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and then knock down shots from time to time. They don't need somebody to just dominate the ball the whole game and make all the decision makings and take all the clutch shots down the stretch when you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, right? And even DeAndre Ayton. I mean, there was, game 1 where like literally down the stretch, you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and you had Ayton and Chris Paul operating as if they were Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, like just taking all the shots down the stretch. And it's like, aren't you like one of the greatest point guards of all time, one of the best basketball minds, one of the best decision makers of all time? And you're over here giving DeAndre Ayton jump shots in the mid-range like all game when you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, two of the best, pull-up shooters in NBA history. Okay, call me crazy, right? But they got to find a way to move off of these guys, right? DeAndre Ayton became unplayable. He's having locker room issues again. He was a problem last year. I thought that they were going to trade him this offseason, and they didn't. They didn't try to work out any deals. And then he got an offer sheet, and then he signed that offer sheet, and then it was like, okay, like, well, now they're kind of stuck with him because he had veto power in any trade this year. I will be shocked, like genuinely shocked, if he is on this Phoenix Suns roster starting next season. I do not think that Phoenix wants him. I do not think he wants to be in Phoenix. I don't think it makes sense for both of them to continue this marriage. And DeAndre Ayton might be the one piece to get the Phoenix Suns the depth and talent that they need. It really might. And so I think very likely their best interest is to take Ayton and go and get a couple pieces. Go get some veteran guys that can come in. As far as the center spot, they don't need some 2010 center. They need a guy that can grab rebounds and block shots and be a lob threat, right? Like JaVale McGee would have been fine, right? They don't need some, let me just dump the ball down and give him 20 shots. They need Kevin Durant and Devin Booker should be taking 25 shots each per game. There's half your shots right there, and then everything else just kind of gets scattered throughout. Maybe go get a bench scoring guy that can come in, knock down shots, and you'll be good, right? Like, that's what they need. They need to go and take DeAndre Ayton, flip him for a couple pieces, whatever, and go get a bench scorer, sign some sort of defensive rebounding type center. Again, it doesn't even have to be an elite defensive rebounding center. And then look at guys that are on the open market, like even guys like Stanley Johnson and stuff like that, right? Like Stanley Johnson isn't going to provide you much on the offensive end, but he's a good, sizable defensive type wing that can guard multiple positions and play multiple positions. And that could be a nice piece to add because you don't need the scoring with the team that you have in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, right? So go get some quality defensive pieces, go get a center that can rebound and defend and block shots, and then just go get a bench scorer and you're good. There you go. Move off of DeAndre Ayton, get rid of that headache, let him go be somebody else's problem, go get some nice little pieces, and then try to do what you can with Chris Paul. Chris Paul is going to be the problem, right? Because, his age, he can't stay healthy, which doesn't help at all. Every year, it's like Chris Paul, once again, he falls apart, and they can't count on him. They don't need him anymore. They're better without him. And they just need a point guard that can bring the ball up, get them into sets, and play some defense. Hit a shot from time to time. That's what they need. So if they can try to find somebody that will take Chris Paul, I believe his contract next year is partially guaranteed, the $30 million, and then the following year in 2024, 2025, it's non-guaranteed, and then after that he's a free agent. So maybe you can find a team that would be willing to unload some pieces to take on Chris Paul and just give you and provide some depth. That could be something, right? Like go and get some solid piece. I'm sure you could find a team that has some long-term, like a team like the Hornets, right? Like the Hornets have several long-term salary contracts that they probably want to get off of. Send him back to the Hornets and take on some of those guys. Can you get like a Terry Rozier and some pieces? Maybe you have to give up some assets, whatever, to get the deal. But be like, hey, you guys get to move off of this salary, right? Like that is something that could be the case. Having a large salary that's partially guaranteed and then the following year non-guaranteed, a lot of teams, they have value, right? Maybe not major value, but they have some value. So again, if you could find some teams that just have some bad contracts, maybe you could work out a deal to go get that piece or two. Because again, I don't think they need a ton. They just need like a 7-8 man roster that can come in and do that. Their goal is just to go into the regular season, win enough games to be the 5th seed, 6th seed, just anything other than the play-in. But get to the 5th or 6th seed, and then you're good, right? Like, who cares about home court? Who cares about anything else? Like, if you have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and a bunch of solid defensive 3-and-D type guys around them, you're probably going to win more games than you're not. And you're probably going to have a real chance to win an NBA championship. But this team, this Phoenix Suns as we know it, I don't see it. I'll be surprised if these 4 guys are on the team next year. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker will be on the team. DeAndre Ayton, I am extremely confident he's gone. Chris Paul, it's just, can you find a deal? And what will it cost you? Because look, this new owner has already shown that he's willing to make a splash, that he wants to win, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. So I could see him selling the farm to try to go and win an NBA championship. So, if he has to give up some stuff to unload Chris Paul, that's a very real possibility, and I could see that happening. But again, you don't want to end up gutting your future to just unload Chris Paul because you decided to make this owner didn't, but previous owner made bad decision and wanting to keep Chris Paul. I think you got to move off of CP3. He's too unreliable. You can't count on him. DeAndre Ayton, he's probably your best asset in order to go get other pieces. So if you can turn DeAndre Ayton into like 2, solid guys, we'll see what's out there. We'll see what's available in the offseason. But if you can turn him into like I said, 2 solid pieces, 2 solid contributors, I think that would be massive for them. If you can, try to go get some type of 3-and-D wing. Can you turn Ayton into like Miles Bridges? What do the Hornets want to do with him? Right? I understand the whole off the court stuff, but he'd be perfect 6'8" defensive type wing. Can you trade Ayton to Portland for like Jeremy Grant and like Nurkic? I don't even know if the money matches, but maybe you can work something out, unload some pieces, whatever. Can you do something like that and be like, hey, here's a young center for you to build for your future with Sharp? I don't know. I think that would be another really good piece because that's what they need. They need a defensive 3-and-D style wing, a reasonable defensive center that can just rebound and then and be a lob threat. And then there you go. Point guard that can play defense and be serviceable. That's it. But we'll see. Time will tell. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think of Phoenix? What do you think of their loss? Do you think they could turn it around? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it.